Hello YouTube! Hi, welcome back! No, it hasn't been that long, you're crazy. It's only been a little while, because time is a relative concept, and so here we are again. Why do I sound like I have a cold? Not because I have a cold. I don't have a cold. I don't get sick. That's not a thing that happens to me. What are you talking about? Where are you? I know, this is relatively confusing as well. This is the living room. You've seen it once or twice before. And this is a bookcase. It's not my bookcase. You know it's not my bookcase. My bookcase looks a little bit more like this, and that's fine. But I figured for this video I should pick out a nice and orderly bookcase and then stand in front of it and talk about books. I know, you could have never guessed it. I'm just so unpredictable, and so this video will be all about books. Remedy Within asked me what my favorite books are and if I could recommend anything, and that is a very difficult question, but thank you so much for asking it. So, here's my top, some books have several copies. 6. It's my top 6. I can give you my top 6 of all-time favorite books, and that's gonna have to be okay. Yeah. Number 1 is and always will be Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. It's a really great book. A lot of you have read it or had to read it for school. And if you haven't read it for some strange, weird reason, then you really should, because it's a really, really good book. I'm not going to summarize it. You can find the summary, and you shouldn't find the summary. You should just read it, because it's really, really good. This is the first book I ever read in English. I was 12, and I didn't really understand a lot of this book. But I loved it, though. It was funny, and it was cool, and I was proud of myself for reading an English book. And then I looked for it everywhere and I couldn't find it anywhere, and then I went to high school and they had it in our high school library, and this is the copy that I stole from the high school library. And they had 2 copies. Don't look at me like that. They had 2 copies and I stole one because I figured no one would ever love it as much as I did, and I think I'm right. It has been with me for many, many years. It looks less worn on camera. That's great. It's not. It's still in great shape. I mark stuff in it. See this? I do that with books that I love because I think that's what you should do with books. Some book people really don't like that, drawing or marking things in books. I love it. I think it's my book and I should just live in it, with it, through it. Life philosophy. Move on, yes, number 2. Number 2 is Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And I know that the title is a bit sappy. It's not a sappy book. It's a really, really good book, I promise. This is her first novel, I think. She was 23 when she wrote it, which is really depressing. It's really about an outcast, and it's in the 1930s, I think, and there's a deaf mute whose name is John Singer, and he moves in to a house, and then he sort of observes the people there and befriends people, and it's an absolutely beautiful book. I'm not gonna give you a full summary. You just have to read it. Wait, I'll tell you how I got to the book. I think I was 14, and I used to watch a series called Once and Again, and they talked about this book in one of the episodes, and so I was curious, and I looked for it everywhere. And I read it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And then a few years later, the movie A Love Song for Bobby Long came out, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And they also referenced the book in there. And now I'm not sure if it's my favorite movie because they referenced the book, or just because it's a good movie. But both, I think, is the answer to that question. Read this book. It's really beautiful, and I recommend it. I've read it so many times now, but I should read it again. I have some time. The sun is shining. I should just go out in my hammock and read this. I can do that. First, finish your video. I was gonna do that. Don't worry about it. I was gonna finish the video. Third place is the Farnsworth Invention by Ernst Sorkin. It's a play. It's not really a novel. It's a play. And you might remember Ernst Sorkin from The West Wing or Sports Night or Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which is a really great series, or The Newsroom. And he is a brilliant writer. His dialogues are just insane, and I love him so much. He's one of my all-time heroes, and if I would ever meet him, then I could die happy. This is a really great play. It's about the race to the invention of television, and it's really good. Let me see if I marked anything in it. Might not have, maybe with pencil. Move on, stop reading. This is a really great play. Definitely read it if you love Ernst Sorkin and his dialogues. He's great. Number 4 is Craig Ferguson, Between the Bridge and the River. You might know Craig Ferguson as a host of the Late Late Show on CBS, and he's quit that now. James Corden has taken over, and This is his, I think it's his debut novel, because he's got another one called American on Purpose, which is also really good, but this was his debut and I loved it. I don't know how to summarize it. It's, what does he call it? A romantic comic philosophical odyssey. That's kind of what it is. It's really good. It's funny and serious and touching, and I also love that it's a little bit biographical, but you don't really know what's true and what's not. He writes that on the first, I think it's on the first pages. He says, "This story is true, of course. There are many lies therein, and most of it did not happen, but it's all true." And that's the reason why I bought this book and started reading it. Also because I love Greg Ferguson, so that helps. Great book, definitely read it. Next on my list, number 5, is Italo Calvino, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. It's an Italian book. I read it in a Dutch translation. There's also definitely an English translation that you can find. It's a really good book. I also can't say what it's about. I pick really difficult books to summarize. What is it about? It's about how we read, and it has a bit of romance and mystery, but it's more of a philosophical. Just read it. It's really good. I really loved it. I might want to switch number 5 and number 4. Maybe this one has beaten Craig Ferguson. I don't know. I have to think about it. Don't tell Craig Ferguson. Last but not least is a Dutch book. I know I've been mentioning mostly English books, but I read a lot of Dutch books as well, and I don't know if there's an English translation of it, but this is a book that I read semi-recently, and it's called Alles Kantelt by Tomas Lieske. I'm not sure if there's an English translation. I hope there is. It's really good. It's about a guy, I think he's like 35, in his 30s somewhere, and he meets a little boy who's the 12-year-old version of himself, but like literally himself. He meets himself at the age of 12, and then they travel together and talk, and it's just really beautiful. Battery is dying, I have to talk fast. Okay, so that was my top 6 of all-time favorite books. Thanks so much for asking that very difficult question, Remedy Within. If you have any other questions or things you want me to talk about, leave a comment down below, and I'll do that relatively soon, because I make videos very frequently, and time is a relative concept. Now we have come full circle, because that's how we started this video. See, my focus is still very present. Thank you for watching. If you have a favorite book, or more than one, because it's not humanly possible to have just one, I know, I sympathize. Leave me a comment, let me know what they are, and I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you all again very soon. I know, you better believe it, it's gonna be true this time. Thanks so much for watching, bye, peace out.
Pocket of angels and go away. Take this pocket of angels